Connect.
Hello and welcome everyone to Slicing Through the Veil of the Ego with Mark and Sarah.
Yay.
That was, you can do better. Slicing through the veil of the ego. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so last time, I hope you had a good time looking through the homework from last time. Today we are moving into judgment. Yeah, this is a real one, I can say. I mean, everyone has judgments, and some more, some less, but it's a real one, you know. It's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing about all of these nine thieves is that everybody has them a little bit.
Yeah. But the
So
judgment, I feel like we have a lot, you know. We think we don't judge, but we judge. It's like, I don't like this color. Yeah, judgment,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
But so it's like we do have preferences, but there's a lot of judgment in there, and they come so, they're so deeply programmed.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so uh, it's like, yeah, it's a fun topic to dive into, but it's also very important to have, you know, compassion for oneself and for others, and curiosity, like to look at this at a, because if you're starting to judge yourself because you're judging, then you're double judging. So the double judging is even worse than, so we judge and then we judge ourselves. We do something that we think is not good and then we judge ourselves. So we have the judgment toward other people, and then we have the judgment on ourselves. So that's one thing that I work a lot with the people that I work with. We have to stop judging ourselves so hard, because it's like a second punishment. We do something that, I mean, no one is perfect, you know. No one is correct all the time. No one goes through life cruising like this perfect spiritual person. I mean, that's not why we are here. That's not how this thing is built.
Right.
It's not the universal law that we're going to come here and then, you know, we practice a little bit and then we're going to be perfect for the rest of our lives. No, it's about how do we deal with this imperfection.
Yeah.
And that we understand that the imperfection is the perfection, because there is no such thing as perfection.
Yeah.
So we will judge, but what do we do when we judge? When we find ourselves judging, and stop punishing oneself and stop punishing others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this topic, it really goes very deep. And just like the previous topic about wanting approval, we're going to go back to childhood once again to find the roots at which this judging started. Always back to childhood, back to our parents, back to our childhood.
It's like my breathwork teacher says, you think that you're messed up because of your parents, and you are right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was when I had to go to therapy when I was younger. I went to therapy for like 7 years, and I just sent the bill to my parents. I just said, this is on you. And they said, okay, I'm sorry. But I actually did that for 7 years. So it said that you're paying for this. I'm not paying for this.
Yeah. Well, I think like if we were to ask everybody in the room today, if we were to say, do you think you're a judgmental person? You're likely to say, no, I have a lot of compassion for people. I'm not that judgmental. So today we're going to peel under a few layers and see how judgmental we really are.
Okay, so what you're saying is that we might walk into this session feeling pretty good about ourselves, and then we're going to end up in a place where we don't feel good about ourselves. You're selling it. You're really selling it.
Well, it's a three-step process. We always dig,
Yeah.
and find the things, and then we give an empowering, opposite
Yeah.
feeling, the opposite side of it.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
the important thing with this is like we have to be a little bit lighthearted about these things because it can go heavy very quickly. If
yeah,
we start looking at ourselves and we're like, wow, I'm not doing good, or like then we judge ourselves, and it's easy to kind of fall into that kind of pool of some sort of self misery kind of thing if we're too hard on ourselves. So it's a balance when you do this work. It's like we have to understand that this is just the way it is. We all have these things and we all need to work on it, but we can't do it by putting another heavy thing on ourselves. So it's like understanding that this is just how it is. It's just I'm not perfect.
yeah,
And the quicker we can understand that, okay, I'm not perfect, I will never be perfect. But what do I do with that imperfection? How do I treat myself and how do I treat others when I understand that I judge? So I would say that is it's not the judgment itself, because that's going to be there
right.
in some shape or form. Some people are very judgmental. They have a very critical look at the world, and it's like, how do you judge the world? Is the glass half empty, or is the glass half full? And the more trauma we have, and the more unprocessed stress, and the more imprints we have from we were younger, the more drawn we will be to judgment. But
Yeah,
it's same as what we discussed in the first episode. It's just a protective mechanism. It's nothing else. So it's the compassion. So we do something, we judge, and then we need to be compassionate about it, no matter who is judging. So it's like this, it's almost like it's a belief system connected to it, would you say?
and the whole thing is about belief systems. So all of the nine thieves are categories of belief systems, of which there's an infinite number of. The nine thieves is just a kind of a way to categorize them into some cohesive understanding.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when it comes to judgment, if we go back to our childhood, and let's go all the way back to like 1 or 2 years old. This is the age before we're verbal, but the judging begins before we can even speak words out loud, because we are trained through toys and through the items that we interact with, how to start to sort and to categorize things.
Yep.
Every child has this little toy where there's a circle hole and a square hole, and you've got a block and a cube and a sphere, right? And so we are trained even before we can speak how to start to categorize. And categorization is the precipice of judgment. So when we
Yep.
start to categorize things, that is placing a vague judgment on something. And later, that's how judgment starts to come into our world. And so as a child, we start to learn good or bad, right and wrong, like and dislike. And so your whole world as a child becomes experimenting with the world and deciding what you like and what you don't like. Or sometimes your parents tell you what you should like and don't like, and you have to either agree or disagree with that, which then always is where there's a place of tension, which then leads to disagreements or whatever, or people never talk about it and hide it for the rest of their life. So there's all kinds of traumas that start to bond just from this idea of compartmentalizing, categorizing, and judging things. So when we talk about judgment, it's one thing to like judge another person, to say, hey, this person's good or this person's bad or this person's done something wrong. That's just one layer. So if we go really deep into everything, I would say that every item that you see in the world around you, you immediately tend to place a judgment on it. This is cool. This is not cool. This is awesome. This is not awesome. I love this thing. I hate this thing. This thing belongs in the trash. This thing belongs on the shelf. And so everything has attached to it some form of judgment. And if you were to just look around your room right now, why is this book on the top and this book on the bottom of my bookshelf? All right. So there's some priority there, whether, whatever judgment you happen to give upon it, it's not right or wrong. But when you realize that you have judged just about every single thing in your life, every single person, every single interaction, and it's continual, it doesn't stop. It's an ongoing process. So we are involved in judgment quite a lot, I would say. So moving from childhood into adolescence, we kind of turn the mirror around all of a sudden during this time because our body is changing and evolving and growing, and we're more interested in what's happening. So then instead of looking out and judging the world, we now look inside and judge ourselves. Who am I supposed to be? What kind of person am I supposed to be? How am I going to dress? How am I going to fit in with these friends? How am I going to get approval from your parents and all of these things? And you start to make all these judgments on yourself. So then when you move into adulthood, you've got judging others and judging yourself and judging everything around you. So it's kind of one of those things that happens so quickly that we don't give much mind to it. It's so deeply programmed in our day-to-day operations that we just think it's normal to judge everything that we do, everything that we see, every person and every interaction. So I would say that judgment is actually a function. Now, what can be a problem with judgment is when we start to attach meaning to that judgment, and especially if that meaning is incorrect, like I'm a bad person, I'm a horrible person, or you start to say these negative things towards yourself, or you start to create a reality in your mind that actually isn't true about your situation. And that's where things start to get a little bit funny. And that's the goal of looking at these judgments, is to see, like, are all of these judgments that I have, are they useful to me? Are they beneficial? And not to be too hard on yourself, but more, like Sarah said earlier, with a bit of curiosity. Can you look at these judgments and really just think to yourself, okay, they're here. What do I do with them? And I don't need to be angry about that. So can you see that those judgments are just so prevalent, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, we have to judge, because otherwise we won't navigate the world. We will walk into the closed door every time, like we won't learn anything. It's like the mind that's how it works, but it's supposed to be beneficial for us. But the way that we live in society now, we're so bombarded with information of what to think, how to act, how to not act, how to behave. And there's so much shame and guilt so there's a how to say, shaming and guilting has been normalized in society, because we're shaming ourselves and we shame other people when we do something wrong. And then there's this morale, or like what is right and what is wrong. And there is a way to navigate the world and to navigate relationships and interactions and just, basic living. And that is to make as little harm on ourselves and as little harm on other people as possible. What is it that Luhan always says, that don't do other people and don't do yourself and don't do other people. And by doing means judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, don't place a judgment on yourself or on other people. Life will happen. Things will go wrong. Friction is here because we're supposed to learn from it.
Yeah.
So life is a mirror for us to grow as people. That's the whole point of this existence. It's like coming here and look at oneself. And that's what you also talk about. So we talk about self-mastery, and self-mastery is the ability to look at oneself in real time, like in the now, and notice, oh, I'm judging, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and what social expression do I add on that judgment? Do I say that everyone who's wearing blue are bad? And we do all of these things. We look at people and we evaluate them and then we judge, good or bad. But it's like, what do we do with this? Do we pay attention and like, wow, why am I doing that? Like, why am I putting certain kind of people in a certain category? It comes from somewhere. It's an imprint.
Yeah.
So it's about being curious enough and looking at oneself. What am I doing? And is this creating harm to myself or harm to anyone else? Because the judgment is real, the energetics are real, and there's different layers of this judgment. It's like I can watch something happen and I can feel in myself like, wow, I don't like this. This is not for me. But I don't have to share that and project that to the other person.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. I don't have to walk around and share my judgments to people all day long. And you will notice how much we do that. Oh, do you want to go to this restaurant? Nah, not so good. Judgment.
Yeah.
I can say like, I can't, I can remove that kind of sensation because it just doesn't provide any positivity to anyone involved. If I don't like it, just don't go there. Don't like avoid it. Just do something else. It's like if you ask me, should we go to Good Souls and have lunch? And I say, wow, I really don't like that place. And start naming, wow, well, last time I was there, then I do a whole thing of it. Instead, I could say, I would prefer to go to Freebird.
Good choice.
I could just say that. I don't have to share my judgment, my negativity that I have going on my end.
Yeah.
So it's like we judge all the time, but what do I do with that judgment? Do I share that? Do I put that on someone? Do I walk around and share to everyone what I'm judging and what I like and what I dislike and da. And that's also a trauma.
Yeah.
So it's about, because what happens is that we only create more negativity in ourselves when we keep these habits going. Then I create, so if I have judgment and I walk around sharing, like complaining, then I create a negativity inside myself.
Yeah.
And that is affecting my mood, my vitality, the frequency of the organs, all of this, my energy field, everything. So if I do that a lot, then my whole frequency, my whole vitality is going down. That's why don't do yourself. And then if I have that negative judgment, don't put that on other people. Because we want to do the other way around. We want to raise the frequency and the vitality in the body. We want to be able to, you spoke about this last time, this emotional intelligence, the harmony that we are trying to create for ourselves and for others. And of course, there's going to be millions of times where you are not, just walking around like a Zen monk, being like, but what are we trying to get to know ourselves?
Yes, the awareness of that.
Yes, it's like, what is my path? Why am I doing this?
Yeah. And on a purely spiritual level, Krishnamurti, the Indian guru, he says that judgment is the precursor to violence. Violence is the precursor to war. So a single act of judgment can lead to war. And you know, and of course that's an extreme situation. Just because I think that this cup is better than the other cup, that's not. But if I think that all Jewish people are evil, that might lead to war in certain circumstances. So thinking about the broad and the narrow aspects of how judgment affects you. And like Sarah said, you have to look at, is it harming myself or harming others? Or is it kind of an innocent judgment?
Yes, but we have judgment. So there's like there's a balanced judgment, the way that we are created, the way that we are designed to function, because we need to navigate the world, because there's just too much going on. It's like, otherwise I can't choose. If I'm going to buy a car, I have to choose a color, you know, like, and if I can't prefer anything, then I'm never gonna leave with my car. And that's where indecisiveness comes in also, because you can't choose, you know, and that's also an imbalance in the nervous system. So what we want is to you know thyself. That's like when you listen to the Upanishads and the ancient scripts, they say like that is the key. Know yourself. And it's the road to knowing myself. And as I get to know myself, I release things, and then life becomes better. Life becomes balanced. Life becomes harmony. I become happier, because if we, it's the negativity that we create in ourselves that is causing the problems, and then we put that on other people. And the one also calls that dress. That I dress you in my poverty. So I dress you in my judgment. And that's when, you know, that could be in relationships. It can come from parents like, no, you're not good enough if you don't have that grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then the energy in the household is going to be very different if you come home with good grades or bad grades. So that's a huge judgment and a very deep imprint that you are not good enough unless you do that. So that's a huge judgment. So we have to see all the judgment that we are doing, and start to get to know that, and get to know myself.
Yeah.
And not judge myself because I'm judging, because we all judge.
Right.
So the universe is very, what do you call it when it's this duality that everything is a paradox. But that's how everything is created.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. That's why I said when we said, oh, what topic is it today? Judgment. I was, oh wow, it's huge.
It is huge. Yeah.
It is huge. So if you feel like you get overwhelmed because it's so many choices and so much judgment, yeah, that's okay, you know, because that's the revelation when you kind of remove the veil, slicing through the veil of the ego, and you see, holy shit, there's so much judgment.
Yeah.
Okay, it's same as the ego. We're trained to say that the ego is not your amigo, but it has a functionality. The judgment also has a functionality, but what are you doing with it? That's the point. It's not the fact that we are not supposed to judge.
Right.
It's just that the judgment has been, it's on GMO. It's on, it's like a mutant. It's on, you know, it's like, it just gotten too strong.
Well, when you notice a judgment and you become aware of a judgment, no matter how small or large it is, the question you should always immediately follow that up with is, why is that there? Why do I judge that? And so let's talk specifically about judging other people, because I actually think that it's way more like one of those topics that we don't talk about, but it actually happens all the time. You know, let's just say you go to the supermarket. I mean, every single person that you see, there's a micro judgment that happens. And if you just get really honest with yourself, You judge whether they're good looking, you judge whether they're sexually compatible, you judge whether they're like a slob or someone who's dressed nice. You might even judge and try to think like, what is their socioeconomic status? What is their marital status? What is their religion? You know, all of these, there's a massive long list of things that immediately just come to your mind because we've been socially programmed to immediately categorize and label people with all these different labels. So when you notice that happening, you want to look at your judgments and say like to yourself, oh, okay, I just judged that poor lady over there. Where is that coming from? You know, why did I have such a strong judgment towards her? She's just over there getting apples and I'm over here judging the shit out of her. So why is that happening? And that's where the real slicing has to happen, is getting to the root of those thoughts and feelings that you secretly have in your mind. You don't say it out loud, but that judgment is happening internally. But questioning yourself, what is really going on with that judgment, is the work that's really needed.
And the interesting thing here is that we judge automatically because we need to scan for danger.
Yeah,
Is
it's a nervous
this
reaction.
yes. So it's a nervous system reaction. So if we're judging a lot, that means the nervous system is activated. So we come back to the nervous system all the time. And that means if the nervous system is highly activated, that means we have a lot of unresolved stress situations, circumstances, imprints, whatnot, that is still very active in the body, and it's active in the tissue. It's stored in the tissue and in the nervous system. So that's why we always come back to what is the solution, because if we're only going to use the force of the mind, I'm not going to judge, then you're going to get very disappointed very quickly and very often, because we're not fixing the root of the problem, which is that there's the organism. If you remove the ego and the identity and just look at yourself as an organism, the organism doesn't feel safe. So we have to look for danger. And somewhere I learned that certain people with a certain kind of look or feel or energy is not safe for me. And even though, so there's the physical danger that is the real danger, but then we have the social danger because we're living in the social construct. So it's an identity danger, like a coworker that you're competing with, or you feel threatened by, or that is trying to maneuver you out of certain projects and such and such. Then you judge that person, but what's really happening is that you're not feeling safe. And so that's why it usually goes back to the childhood, because we are so innocent and we're not equipped to deal with the adult world. But most children get introduced to the adult world very, very early and very quickly. And so it's residue for things that we have experienced early in the childhood or at some point. That is causing us to feel more reserved or judge more from certain behaviors, certain situations. It could be very, it's not even, doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
It doesn't have to make sense, because what really happened and the imprint that was made are two different things. So the body will remember what the body remembers. That's it. We can't change that. We can't judge that. That's just how it is. And that's why instead of trying to force the mind to not judge, that's just very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. So if we calm the nervous system down and work with the somatics and start to release that, then the reaction from the body won't be as strong. And when the nervous system doesn't react as strong, mind and the judgment doesn't act that strong. So that's why we work with the EFT to slow down the amygdala and to bring out the memories and the imprints that is connected to judgment. And it's like we have a, yeah, Chris knows this when we spoke about this. You have like a box of unprocessed stuff. We all have that. And then that box of emotions, imprints, events, memories, whatever, affect the body in the different ways. And then we have coping mechanisms to not experience that again. And that's when the ego comes in and try to protect us. But if we work with the somatic and we work with the nervous system, we start to empty that box and the reaction to things start to calm down. And that's what we're looking for. And then it becomes easier with the self-mastery because there's not an action reaction, dun-dun, judgment straight away.
Yeah, just happens like.
And it could be an explosion or a reaction, a social reaction connected to that judgment. What were you saying?
No, I was just agreeing that reaction that happens so quickly.
Yeah.
The things that we have stored inside of us, releasing them somatically, it takes time.
Yes. So the first thing is to become aware. What am I doing? Start pay attention. And it's easier to do when you have a strong reaction. When you realize, am I judging here? If you even think that, you probably are. There's a very, very good book that is from Michael Singer, the experiment. What is it called?
I know what you're talking about. I'm forgetting the name of that book.
I will remember. But it's a fantastic book where he practiced not to judge. So it's his own, it's a biography of himself when he just wants to sit and meditate and the universe just drags him out on adventures and he's trying not to judge what's in front of him. And he explains this very deeply. The surrender experiment.
That's right.
Yes. So he's trying to live his life without judgment of what's good and bad and what he wants to do or not. So it's an incredible book. I highly recommend. It's one of the best books I've ever read because it's not a fact. It's not a factual. It's not a trauma book. It's his life's work where he goes from living in the woods and just wants to meditate and he becomes extremely successful, but he didn't want it. Just followed what he practiced this to not judge what is in front of me.
Yeah.
And it's a highly entertaining book. I recommend it to everyone to read. It's so much fun. And then you can apply, what if I don't judge what happens in my life? Maybe my road to happiness is trying to remove the judgment. Because the judgment, if it comes from trauma and if it comes from scarcity in the nervous system, that can also keep us from moving towards what we're supposed to move towards because we have a fear of something. And the fear is, that's its own subject. But basically, it's not real. The fear is not real. And we're not talking about, okay, I'm going to go to a war zone or jump into the cage with tigers. I mean, it's not that kind of, it's not danger we're talking about. We're talking about fear, this everyday fear that keeps us from living the lives that we are supposed to live and living the lives that we, happy and free and pursue our dreams, pursue greatness, having more. To have more, you need to expand your nervous system. You need to be able to hold more. And then you have to grow and go out of your comfort zone a little bit. And then the fear comes and So it's all of these things just keeps us from expanding into greatness, I would say. So the judgment is a huge part of that. So if we can just slice through the veil of the ego just a little bit and notice and just have a little bit of space, so the judgment doesn't become an action straight away. And maybe if we can close our mouths before we start to ramble of what's good or bad, or just by doing that, things will change. And that's what we're looking for today. No one is going to stop judging. That's just not going to happen. The ego is not going to die. We're all going to, continue with this. But there's a deep layer that you can remove just by becoming aware and working, like lifting the hood and like, okay, what do we have here? What are my main judgments? Woohoo.
That's the continual question, is just to keep always asking what's going on in here.
Yeah.
Opening up and looking under the hood and asking why is this happening? What's really going on? What are my beliefs that cause me to feel this way?
Yep. True that.
Well, let's go ahead and move into the somatic aspect of the session.
And if there's any questions, post them in the chat and we are happy to share.
Yep, please do. And we're going to follow the same formula that we did on Wednesday. We're going to do 3 rounds of EFT. The first round of EFT is just meant to settle the nervous system down with some deep breathing and connect to all of the meridians. The second round, we bring up the negative aspects of judgment. The third round, we get in touch with our higher self and bring in the empowering aspect to actually shift our belief systems about that. So I want you first just to rest your hands down, take a couple of deep breaths. And I want you to bring into your mind any judgments that you may have had today. So let's just look at today, not your childhood, just any judgments that you may have had during this session, before you showed up here, earlier today, anything at all where you judge something, someone else, or even yourself. And then let's begin tapping on the hand. And we'll take 2 deep breaths. Begin tapping on the inner eye. Taking 2 deep breaths. Tapping on the outer eye. 2 more deep breaths. Tapping now under the eye. 2 deep breaths. Noticing your nervous system calming down. Tapping now under the nose. 2 more deep breaths. Tapping now on the chin. Give me 2 more deep breaths. Tapping now on the chest, either side. 2 more deep breaths. Ah. Ah. Tapping now under the arm. 2 more deep breaths. Ah. Let's bring the tapping to the top of the head. 2 more deep breaths. Ah. Ah. Let's bring the tapping back to the side of our hand. 2 more deep breaths. Ah. Ah. And then shake the hands out. Let the hands rest in your lap. And just notice that shift that occurs. Your breathing may have slowed down. The feeling in your body may be more relaxed. You may be yawning, burping, loosening the shoulders. Those are all signs of regulating the nervous system down to a more safe and secure space. So now we're going to begin the next round. And just like before, I'm going to say a phrase out loud, and I want you to repeat that phrase. You can also modify the phrase slightly to better fit what you think or what you're feeling, but I'll give plenty of time before we move on to the next phrase so that you can repeat after me. So let's begin tapping at the hand. All of this judging. I judge more than I realize. Let's come now to the inner eye. All of this judging. I compare myself to so many things. Let's come now to the outer eye. All of this judging. I am most judgmental to myself. Come now to under the eye. All of this judging. It creates so much separation. Come down to the nose. All of this judging. It's a reflection of my own beliefs. Come down to the chin. All of this judging. It shows me what I really think. Come down to the chest. All of this judging. Today, I choose to look at this behavior. Under the arm. All of this judging. Today, I choose to understand its roots. Top of the head. All of this judging. Today, I'm going to be honest about it. Back to the hand. All of this judging. Even though I do it, I love and accept myself anyway. Shake out the hands. Return them to your lap for a couple of deep breaths. And just notice if any of those phrases kind of struck a chord, something that kind of made you think a little deeper. And just take note of that. It may be something to go back and look at more deeply, or maybe you want to rewatch this EFT and go deeper into that particular aspect. And so now that we've brought up those feelings of judgment, those feelings of separation, those feelings of categorization, and not being too hard on ourselves or being too critical, like Sarah said earlier, they're just things that happen. They're just things that naturally occur. But how we feel about them is entirely up to us. So for the final round of EFT, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to envision that part of you that has everything resolved. It's your highest self. It's that version of you that is completely healed. It's that version of you that is always whispering in your ear, guiding you forward, pushing you in the direction of hope, of light, of compassion. And as we start to do more of these, I want you to really envision this person. See what they look like. What are they wearing? Is it a version of you that is full of light? A version of you that has a full head of hair? Whatever that version of you is that's perfect and complete and guiding you, just envision that version of you. And we'll begin the next round of EFT. So let's start tapping on the hand. All of this judging. What if it's here to teach me a lesson? Come into the inner eye. All of this judging has helped me to stay safe. Come to the outer eye. This judging has been programmed since childhood. Under the eye. Today, I choose to see connection onto the nose. Today, I choose to put aside my likes and dislikes. Onto the chin. Today, I choose to see that we are all the same. Onto the chest. Today, I see that everyone judges. Under the arm. Today, I forgive others for judging me. Top of the head. Today, I forgive myself for judging. Back to the hands. Even though I have this judging, I love and accept myself anyway. Shake out the hands. Rest the hands in your lap for a couple more deep breaths. And once again, if any of those phrases really struck a chord inside of you, then I would encourage you to look more deeply at that aspect. Ask yourself, why did you have that reaction? What was it about that aspect that really got under your skin or that you really noticed? And maybe that's a clue of where to look deeper, where there could be something unresolved inside of you that's keeping you from being emotionally sovereign. And that's the whole point of doing this work, is to dig and to look for all of those little things that may be causing us to be disharmonious. And we do the EFT and we get to know ourselves so that we can bring and establish more harmony inside of our bodies. So the homework for today's session is to make a list of all of the things that you judge and all of the things that you judge about yourself. There's two lists there. One is looking externally and judging, and the other one is looking internally and judging. Yes, Sarah.
I have a question.
Sure.
When I felt like listing everything that I judge, it felt like a full-time job. How about we narrow it down to something more tangible, like the 10 most obvious things that you judge, and then you look at those 10, and then you look at, okay, is it only judging others, or am I also secretly judging myself, or am I widely open? Am I openly judging myself? So it's like looking at those 10 things, identify 10 things and kind of analyze them a little bit. What is this? And then do EFT on them. Do this round. You can go back to this, and you put that thing in there. And then you do EFT on them. So you find 10 things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that some people might feel compelled to make a long list, and some
Yes.
people that want to do the 10
Yes,
things.
but are you making the long list because you judge yourself?
That could be a reason.
Okay, I gotta list all of these things because I gotta find all the things that I do wrong.
Well, if you look at it from not from doing things wrong, but just getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
I want to really know all of the ways that I judge. And I
Yeah.
always say, because that's what I did. I did this exact exercise years ago. I made a very, very, very long list of all the things that
That's what I mean. I mean, it will never end. The things that you judge, because I judge my water here because it's too much lemon in it, and that is like, no, I can't drink it because it doesn't make me feel good. So it's like the list can be endless. Okay, you can choose. It's up to you. Either you go with Mark and you list everything that you judge, just to get a feel for how much it actually is.
Yeah.
Or you can narrow it down and hone in on 5 to 10 of them and go deeper into those and see what happens. Because then you can, to see if there's any judgment that you can kind of resolve through that and kind of dig a little bit.
Yeah. What I did is I made a list of all of them, and obviously some of them were just innocuous. They're not big deals, but I went with a highlighter and highlighted the ones like maybe I should look into that one a little bit. That one maybe shouldn't be there. Those are the ones that Sarah's talking about on that list 5 to 10. Those ones that are causing disharmony in your life, or maybe there's something that's deeper or trauma related. Or it could just be something that you're not really aware of, and all of a sudden you're shining a light on it, and it doesn't want to be seen, so it kind of hides. So those are the ones we really want to look at.
Yep. Shadow work right there.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Last call for questions. Otherwise, I suspect I make the judgment that this is crystal clear.
Well, I'll go ahead and stop the recording if anyone has questions off air.
Oh,
Thank you all.
perks of being live. Okay, I see.